Hi, everybody. So we are here we have finished podcasting about all of the Star Trek films, including Galaxy Quest. And so that's 14 different podcasts we've done since May, which is kind of crazy. And we are now going to give our personal rankings for these films. And I have the chat room open, so if any of you want to give us your rankings, then that would be great. So Tom is here with me. He's been in here with all of these for me. Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, and so I came into this, just sort of a recap, I came into this viewing having never seen an episode of Star Trek and only having seen Galaxy Quest in 2009. So most of my experience with these movies was first time, and I think with a couple of them I will probably grow to appreciate them more over time, particularly two. But I have to kind of just go. I can't assume that I'll like them more later on. I just have to kind of go where they're at right now, and so I kind of have three sort of groupings of ones that I kind of think are bad, ones that I think are kind of all okay, and ones that I think are really good. So, yeah.
Mine probably boils down along similar lines. I had to abandon the good-bad dichotomy pretty early on, and my list is focused on, the Star Trek movie is trying to do two things. It's trying to be Star Trek, and it's trying to be an entertaining movie. And oftentimes those goals are at odds. If it's a really great movie, it may not be great Star Trek. If it's a really great Star Trek, it may not be such a hot movie. And so there's some of those that where if they're on one side of the scale or the other, they're kind of in the middle of the list. If they don't do either, they're at the bottom. If they do both very well, they're at the top, right? So that's kind of how mine broke down.
That makes sense. That's I think a good way to do it. Okay, so I'll start with my number 14, and for me, the worst Star Trek movie is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, because for me this movie it wasn't even so bad it's good. It wasn't even, I guess it had a few of those moments, but for the most part, it was just boring and kind of unseemly. I really hated the Uhura dancing scene.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that. And I don't know, I just felt like it had the opportunity to kind of do interesting things about, I need my pain. That scene I think is pretty good. But I don't know, it just kind of wastes it. And it's not very well made. The production, you can tell, didn't have very much money. There's just not much to hang your hat on. I feel like the other bad ones I can at least say, well, it looks nice or has a good performance or, something like that. And this one I really couldn't say that about it. So for me, it's the bottom.
So what at this point do you want me to discuss my bottom, or shall I respond to yours, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about the best way to do this. I would just go ahead and you can maybe respond a little bit, but just go ahead and give your 14.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like Final Frontier had some things about it that were moments with the characters that saved it from the bottom spot for me. For me, my number 14 was Nemesis.
Interesting.
And just because it left me so cold and neutral by the end of it. It's good to see the characters. And Captain Picard is great. Something about Patrick Stewart's performance as Captain Picard is really fantastic. But he's doing it in a really a really problematic story, and in a story that does not reflect Star Trek at all. I don't think it's a terribly. It's a snooze of a movie. And it's not and it doesn't make for great Star Trek. So that hits my bottom spot. Mm-hmm. I feel like Star Trek V at least tries to do a little Star Trek. And that attempt it is as failed though it may, saved it from the very bottom spot.
That they sort of the attempt to kind of talk about taking away your pain and that kind of thing.
Yeah, they talk about God and these are classic sort of Trek themes of dealing with pain and dealing with the challenges of being human. Those are all addressed in Star Trek V, if imperfectly. It's really cool that we get to see what McCoy's origins and Spock's origins a little bit, and sort of the tragedies that have set them on the course that they're on.
Okay. Yeah, I guess what we should do is, if you have one, kind of like what that top 10 podcast I shared with you one time did, like if you have one that's way higher up than me, then we'll just punt it and talk about it later on,
okay,
and vice versa. Mm-hmm. But if we're close on these, I think we can just kind of go ahead and talk about it. Because I have for 13 Nemesis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're pretty close on that.
Yeah. And so for me, I guess this just gets a little bit higher because of Patrick Stewart's performance, and I think it looks a little nicer. I think it's better made. So that's kind of where it gets, like, this is pretty much these 10 through 14 are about, they're not that different for me as far as my overall enjoyment. And so, it's a little bit splitting hair sometimes, but I don't know, that for me. But it really annoyed me what they did with Data. The more I thought about it, the more it annoyed me. The way that you kind of they try to have this emotional ending, but then they have this bonus right there, and so it's not emotional. And I just hate when movies do that. They try to manipulate you and get you to feel things when the whole time they don't have sort of the courage of their convictions, because they provide this out. So it's like, I don't know. So that irritated me. And it's just so like, it's an interesting idea to clone Picard, but but it just becomes a guy who wants to take over the world.
Right.
It loses sort of that.
And even to the extent that theme is interesting, it's also very hackneyed as far as Star Trek goes. So we talked about that before. That we've done the good version, evil version thing a lot in Star Trek, and so that's kind of tired.
Plus, that rape scene is really not good. Yeah, that's really not good. So I can totally understand why that would be the bottom of your list. So what did you have as 13?
Final Frontier. Like I said, it just got saved from the bottom spot. I prefer to accentuate the positive, but I think we know what's wrong with it. It's like you said, the production qualities are low. There's a lot of silly crap in there, and it doesn't add up to much. It had the opportunity to do some pretty daring things, and backed off at the last minute, and just a misfire. But it at least tried to do some Star Trek, and we had fun with the characters, so it has that at least redeems it a little. Yeah,
that makes sense. So this next one I'm pretty sure we'll punt on. I bet you have a much higher, but my number 12, I have Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Yep, mine is I've got that at number 7.
Okay, so we'll punt. We'll talk about it later. The reason, I'll just say briefly, I can see why this one might grow on me, but when I was watching it, I was so bored, and it's so self-indulgent about how long did they pan on the ship, and how long did they, and I don't know. So for me, I don't know. I would rather watch something like Insurrection or Generations that at least is kind of fun, whereas that was just so self-serious and so that for me it ends up at number 12. I just thought it was boring.
Yeah, I think this comes down to a matter of taste in movies a little bit. I mean, I really like 2001, right? And it is very serious and very slow, right? So I can at least tolerate the pace. And the fact that it delivers such strong Star Trek is the main reason mine is so much higher.
Yeah. So what is your number 12?
Generations.
Oh,
So it's funny that you should mention Generations, as you'd rather watch that.
interesting.
I think mainly because I have it down there, because it does have some major plot holes and problems with it. And that's really too bad that it's down there. Like it's down there with apologies to Generations, because I had such a good time when I went and saw it the first time, but it hasn't held up for me.
Okay.
And also, I think that the message is behind it, and how Star Trek is questionable. Not right. It's delivered in a very ham-fisted way, with Picard talking about we have to seize the day and take the time that's been given to us. Well, I'm sorry, but that's it doesn't interest me. As far as a Star Trek message, that just doesn't interest me.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I have that a little higher. I'll talk about it in a second. But for me, yeah, I can see what you're saying. It definitely felt cheap to me.
Yeah.
Felt cheap. It felt rushed.
I don't like Kirk's death. I think that's
interesting.
really mishandled, and I think the writers themselves have said that too.
That makes sense. I mean, I didn't even see the need why we needed to have him particularly die. Like,
right.
It was sort of I guess I felt like, well, the fans must have needed closure, but evidently they didn't. So if they didn't like it, yeah, I'll talk about it in a second. But my next, so my number 11 is Insurrection. Star Trek Insurrection.
Wait, what was your 12?
My 12 was the motion picture.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So I've had
Insurrection.
Frontier.
We concur. We agree.
We agree. We both have 11.
Yeah. For
Insurrection. Yeah, I mean, I think there's fun to be had in this one. I think if you're just looking at it from just sort of a generic sci-fi action movie, I think that it's okay. I think the villain is pretty bad, although I do think sort of the stretching of the skin thing is sort of weird and in a kind of entertaining way. But F. Murray Abraham is really bad in it. I felt bad for him. And it's just really forgettable. Like when we did the podcast, it was just 2 days in between seeing it and talking about it, and I had forgotten almost everything
that
I had seen. I had to go back in my notes and be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, at first I had this one much nearer the bottom, but as I thought through it, this last viewing gave me a greater appreciation for it. I think it's a good, solid Star Trek message. I think it does a pretty good job being Star Trek, about 70% of the time. But it doesn't do such a great job being an entertaining movie, because the movie stuff is formulaic and procedural and boring. The interesting stuff, though, is is it right to remove these people from their home?
Yeah, that's true.
I think that was a fascinating question, and I loved that Picard had to realize that he had literally outgrown his uniform. He had outgrown the Federation, but they didn't follow through with that. They didn't do anything courageous, really, with that. I love the idea of insurrection. I just wish they pulled it off a little better.
Yeah. Well, and kind of the love and youth is in the air is sort of funny.
Yeah, there's some amusing stuff in there. Yeah, there's some. Yeah, about half of the jokes don't land, but the ones that do were pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. Yeah, and it certainly looks better than Nemesis, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Although so. Okay, so okay, you already did your 11 because it's Insurrection. All right. This is going faster than I thought it would. So my number 10 is Star Trek Generations. And the reason why I put it ahead of these other ones is because I felt like the interactions between Picard and Kirk were kind of entertaining, and I felt like the villain with Malcolm McDowell was okay, kind of entertaining. I forget his name, but
Soren.
Soren, yeah, and I thought he was okay,
Mhm.
and I liked the Whoopi Goldberg flashback sequences, or the dream sequences, I guess. The alternate reality sequences were really good, and you got to see sort of the inner desires of both Kirk and Picard, and kind of what they gave up.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about it. You're pointing out a lot of the things I enjoy thoroughly. I like seeing, Picard and Data get their wishes granted, and there's a lot of that in it. Those aspects are what make this, for me, the Star Trek Christmas movie. Because they get what they want for Christmas. And, hey, go out and live life to the fullest. God bless us, everyone.
Yeah, it's true. It does that. It even has that Christmas scene where he's playing Santa. I think it's flaws we talked about, but it has too little of Kirk and Picard. It comes too late, and so it sort of feels like, again, it sort of feels like a not quite fulfilled promise.
Yeah, I think it should have come. Their meeting should have come at the midpoint of the movie, not 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, definitely, and I thought that the villain was fine, but I thought that the action looked cheap. Like when they're fighting on that steel bridge, and I don't know, just it looked like an episode of MacGyver.
Yeah, or an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
It's right on that level.
As far as action goes, so that's why it's in this bottom. So those 5 for me are the bottom grouping. So the next set for me take a large step forward. Okay. But anyway, so what do you have as your number 10?
Okay, this is where people are going to get mad. Wrath of Khan.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, I have that much higher. So explain just a little bit, kind of what your thoughts.
Well, this is one of those, like I said before, if it was too much of one or the other, it kind of landed near the bottom, right? Or in the middle. This is a great movie. It's a fun movie. It's an exciting movie. It just fails all down the line in terms of being Star Trek.
Interesting.
We have a great moment with Kirk and Spock, and we have a little bit of Vulcan philosophy in there, kinda, with the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. But there, I just gave it to you. That's all of it. That's all there is. I feel cheated out of science fiction story. I feel cheated out of Star Trek in this story. I feel like it's a revenge story with a science fiction setting, and that bothers me. The more I think about that, it's like a rock in my shoe.
See, that's the thing I think is the strongest about it, is that it's a really good sci-fi movie, not just a Star Trek movie.
Well, but the thing is that the core of the plot isn't science fiction. The core of the plot is a revenge story. Mm-hmm. It never matters that Khan. It never matters much that Khan is an Iceman from the past. That's just incidental to him just being this bad guy that hates Kirk. And it's like, I think we said in our original review, I think this has feet of clay. I don't think it's quite as amazing as the culture has held it up to be. I think it does make it a pretty exciting movie, and for its time, I'm sure it was. It doesn't hold up quite the same. The action doesn't hold up quite the same anymore, and it does not fulfill. It's not Star Trek to me. Now, I'm not saying it should be out of the canon. I'm just saying
I get it.
It doesn't. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it. Sure. It should. It would make. Yeah,
I understand
some stuff, but
I understand what you're saying, because I really didn't like this year's X-Men movie, and part of the thing about it for me is that I felt like a generic action movie and not an X-Men movie. Like X-Men, we don't have to get too far, but X-Men is about this metaphor of something better, about this class. It's not just a generic superhero movie when they're done right. And so for me, I was so disappointed, because to me it lost what made an X-Men movie, and I could see that it's not terrible, but it was frustrating for me as a huge X-Men fan. So I can kind of relate, I think, a little bit there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you got you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So you're gonna not be happy with my number 9, but remember, this is now a second grouping that's much stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
Oh, okay.
I just thought it was kind of silly. I didn't think it was. I don't know. I don't quite get it. Why people love it so much. I thought it was like scenes like at the hospital. I thought was really kind of madcap and silly, and I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was silly. I can't think of another way to explain it. But it's certainly better than these other ones as far as being entertaining and getting to know the characters and I do kind of like that there isn't a villain and it's just this probe and they have to kind of be creative. I think the romance is kind of not very good between him and Catherine Hicks, and although the date is kind of a fun moment, I love when Spock knocks out that guy on the bus.
I disagree about their chemistry. I think their chemistry works pretty well, and I love that she leaves him, not the other way around. Because we're used to Kirk saying, "Well, gotta go. Look at the time," and at the end, it's her saying, "Oh, hey, no, I got a job. I gotta go." And he says, "Wait, I don't even have your phone number."
You mean at the date?
No, at the end of the movie. He's going, and she's like,
really?
"Well, I know. I got this job on a science vessel. I got to get busy. I can't hang around with you, bud."
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Because in my memory, she was just like, "Sure, I'll go on your spaceship. I'll leave all my family."
Yeah, and then that's balanced with, no, I have a job on a science vessel. I've got a career, man. I don't have time for you.
I forgot that. I must admit. I don't know. It just felt too silly for me.
I can understand that. And I am sympathetic. I'm not as angry as you think I might be, because up until the last minute, that was pretty low on my list.
Really? Okay.
But then I thought about my criteria. Is it good Star Trek, and is it an entertaining movie? I think it's good Star Trek because Save the Whales is a pretty good message, right? Take care of the world you live in. And also the alien probe is cool. I love that we don't know everything about it by the end of the episode. But I love that the crew of the Enterprise do what they can, and they don't hesitate for a second to do what must be done. Right? This is all true to Star Trek. On top of the fact that, there's a lot of funny moments, and it's a pretty compelling plot. It's a solid movie. I put it up much higher and at number 4. So,
all right. Okay, we'll talk about it more. What's your number 9?
Into Darkness, which that surprised me, because this is surprising to me because I defended this movie quite a lot right after it came out. Upon our most recent viewing, though, I felt like it does a pretty good job being an action movie, but it has some big fails as far as being Star Trek goes, and that's where I marked it down. Admiral Marcus's, so we're close on that. Admiral Marcus's motivations make no sense to me, and I can't get around that.
You don't even need him.
Yeah,
you don't even need him as a character. Like, you should just have Khan be the bad guy. Like, it feels so unnecessary.
No, I like the idea. I actually kind of like the idea of there being someone like him, but his motivation doesn't make any sense. There isn't enough backstory there, a reason for him. I would like it. I think we talked about it before. I would really like it if they had made Marcus someone who had been close to the situation with the Klingons and felt like he had expertise and knowledge that the Federation wasn't acting on. I didn't get that sense from that character, I got the sense that he just wanted a war just because he's our evil George W. Bush stand-in, and he has to be a warmongering SOB, and that's what I got out of it, and that bothered me. There could have been so much more done there, and then it would have made it a better Star Trek story. So, yeah, that's why it's as far down as it is. But it's kind of middling.
Yeah, for me, it got to number 8 because of Benedict Cumberbatch's performance, and I admit I'm kind of a fangirl. But I thought he was really good and very commanded the screen. I thought the dialogue was pretty good in that one. I thought that like you said, the action was pretty good, especially that final scene. Was really good. I didn't like the way that they tried to mimic Wrath of Khan. It just felt kind of like a poor step cousin of Wrath of Khan. You know, it's just like, do your own thing, do your own. And I personally just felt like, why do we even have this other villain? Like I said, let's just, when you've got somebody as great as Benedict Cumberbatch playing Khan, like, focus on that. Focus on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, though, it looks great. You know, the production values are great. And it's overall, I think, an entertaining movie. But I thought that I didn't really like that they tried to copy Wrath of Khan. That was my biggest downside to it.
Mm-hmm.
But without the sort of the emotional intensity of Wrath of Khan.
No, I see. The thing is, I like that. I felt like it was a nice essay on Wrath of Khan. I don't have a problem with that. I don't feel like it was mimicking Wrath of Khan. I felt like it was using it as a kind of like a theme in jazz, where you put a new twist on it, and suddenly it's new. I like that. I like that Spock comes to the realization that he and Kirk really are friends. Right, and that Spock discovers a bit more of his humanity that way. And yeah, the action stuff, the action scenes are so fun. I love the Enterprise, you know, soaring out of the ocean. I love it. Its thrusters firing just as it's about to plummet to the Earth at the last minute, and you know, there's some really fun moments as a movie. And yeah.
Definitely. So
but I think we can both agree it doesn't belong anywhere near the bottom of the list, which many fans have done. I think that's absurd.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's just being a little bit. Well, I mean, I guess everybody has their opinions.
Sure.
So, you know, what are you going to do?
It struck me as kind of bitchy. It was like you know, it was a middle finger to J.J. Abrams, because he's shaking things up. He's rattling our cage, and we don't like it. So,
mm-hmm. But I guess, I mean, because you have your idea of kind of what is Star Trek. You know, where in your mind, Wrath of Khan isn't Star Trek, but in other people's mind, that is the epitome of Star Trek. And so I can kind of see how, like, if their definition, you know, but I think, yeah, I mean, having it below the Next Generation movies is just ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Like again, to use the X-Men example, I was so disappointed about it, but I'm not about to put it below, you know, Origins Wolverine or something, you know, like, I'm not stupid.
Right.
But anyway, so what was your number 8?
The Search for Spock.
Okay.
Again, I feel like I need apologies and asterisks next to this one, because I do have, it does have a special place in my heart.
I think it's way underrated. I totally do.
Yeah. I just don't think it's the most. I think it's really strong Star Trek, but I think it's less than perfect as a movie. Some of the sets of the Genesis planet look kind of cheap and silly. You could argue that Christopher Lloyd chews the scenery a little bit. Let's see.
Yeah.
What other flaws can I think of here? I'm usually so focused on how much I love it that I don't think too much on this particular one.
Yeah, I think that I actually have that as my number 7.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're pretty close on that.
Mm-hmm. I think that Search for Spock has a great emotional core, like several great emotional cores. You've got the relationship between Kirk and his son, and having to see his son die, and that's also, you see that coming up in 6, you know, when he has to, you see that continuing thread that gets introduced in 3. And I don't know, I guess, I mean, I'd always heard that, the odd number Star Trek movies, those are the bad ones. And I certainly don't think this is a bad movie, and I certainly think it's way better personally I think it's way better than 1 or 5. But, you know, that's just my personal opinion. I think it's the first one of these three. I remember saying at that podcast that felt like a blockbuster, entertaining popcorn movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
like this is the J.J. Abrams style of movie in that era. I think.
Okay.
In my opinion, I thought it was fun, but yet also emotional. But fun in the Christopher Lloyd stuff, and fun in the I think, you know, some of the stuff with Saavik and Spock is kind of weird and different.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But that feels kind of Star Trek-y to me, I guess.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is weird, and yeah, that is part of Star Trek, that you're going to encounter stuff that makes you feel funny in your tummy.
But I don't know. Overall, I thought that it was pretty good. Like, if you're thinking of those three movies as a trilogy, I think it's a good entry in that trilogy. I like it, and.
Yeah, from about here on, as I'm looking at my list, from about here on, it's nothing but love. Like, I have a very little bad I can say about it. It's only a matter of minor degree.
Right. Yeah, and I just think whenever, for me, all of these next ones, aside from the comedy coming up, when they can tap into that emotion, I'm always going to like that film better than one that... for me, and I don't know if that's necessarily Star Trek, but that's just what kind of gets to me. And so I thought that this did, with sort of the recovery of Spock, and also the death of David, I thought was emotional.
Yeah, and I think the one last thing I'll say about it, I think what really sold it for me after this watch around was that line where Spock's father comes to Kirk and says, "Why did you do this? You threw everything away. It cost you your career. It cost you your ship." And he said, "If I hadn't come, it would have cost me my soul."
Yes, that is very good. Yeah, definitely. So I think you had said that motion picture was your number 7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's the reason I have it that high is that I think it's solid Star Trek. I don't think you can disagree on that. It is absolutely a Star Trek plot. It's a Star Trek story through and through, about a new life emerging, about encountering something that's apparently evil and dangerous, but turns out to be just new and oblivious. Mm-hmm. And we need to discover it, and make friends with it, not kill it. So that's cool. But it's delivered in such a way that is hard for many people to access. And I'm not saying that you have to be brilliant to love it or something, or that you're an idiot if you don't. But if you can appreciate a slower pace in a movie, and maybe an old-fashioned kind of grandeur to movies, like I do, then there's a lot to be had here.
Because I actually like 2001, but what I found, because I watched 2001 after I saw this, just to see. And what I found with 2001 is there was a lot more things that were mysteries that I was kind of left sort of thinking, like, what is going on? Not just like over 3 minutes of the ship. Like, that's not a mystery to me. That's just self-indulgent.
Yes, it was.
And so, yeah, I like I said, I think this is definitely one. And I think that 4, like, the more immersed I kind of get, and the more I watch them, I probably will move them up. But
you can't do that at this point.
Yeah, I can't. And so I totally get it why you'd have it at 7. But I just, like, when I first saw it, I gave it like I gave it like a half star. I really didn't like it. but I've come, even as we've just sort of talked about it, and as I've come to know Star Trek better, it was a rough start, I think.
It's an acquired taste. We can agree on that.
Yes. And it was a rough way to kind of start out this series, and I was like, oh, no. Yeah. Like, I think that and I have told people, I've said start with 2, and then maybe go back later and watch the motion picture, I think is good advice. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it just, I don't know. I think maybe too if I bonded more with the Stephen Collins character and the
Ilea.
Ilea. If I bonded more with them, I think maybe it might have had that emotional impact that I'm going to talk about with some of these other films. But because I didn't really, I don't know. So I mean, it's not that I completely didn't, but I just didn't enough for it to save the movie for me. But I totally see why it would be a favorite, or in your 7th spot.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, all right. Well, so my number 6. This was a hard one to rank because it's so different, but I put Galaxy Quest as number 6. Oh, you did too?
Yeah.
Interesting. I went back and forth, because I really do think it's funny, and I think it's very well made. I think the makeup, costumes, all that is really good, and I like kind of what it says about fandom, and I don't know. I just love Alan Rickman so much in it. He's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, the actors are so much fun, and I love that it advocates embracing Star Trek in order to succeed or prosper, as opposed to stiffly arming it and being too cool for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just that, like, I don't know, that there's like something that you gain something by being a part of movies and fandoms and being a part of something bigger than yourself. I think that's what always bums me out when you get the inherent like backlash that'll come whenever people love something. There's always this group that's like, and it always bums me out because I don't know. It's just like, just let people love what they love. Like, why do you care?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just thought that it really was great that way, and it's really well written. The dialogue is really funny. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I just thought this is where it belonged. Yeah,
and the where to the extent it busts Star Trek's chops, it's deserved.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I that's interesting. Do you have anything else why you put it at 6?
Couldn't quite put it in the top 5 since it's not technically Star Trek, I guess. If it, if we're thinking of it that way, but it's just such an unexpected treat of a movie. It's just, bless it.
And I'm so glad. I guess you'd said they're doing a mini series or something, or Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix has had something in the works. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad though that they never did a sequel, because comedy sequels usually are really terrible. And I'm just glad it was allowed to just sort of stand on its own.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. Okay, so my number 5 then is Star Trek 2009.
Same.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a really solid movie. It's really entertaining. I mean, my only real flaw with it was that I felt like Zachary Quinto was kind of emotionally flat, and I didn't really love the romance between him and her. That grew on me.
Yeah.
In Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond. But I think the villain's kind of forgettable. I don't even remember his name. I just know it's Eric Bana. So I guess that would be one too. And but it's very entertaining, and it's the one I had seen before, and I'd liked it before, and I liked it again.
Yeah. No, it's a thrill. I love seeing Captain Kirk be born. I love seeing him change Starfleet in a positive way and instantly. Like they can't. I like seeing him emerge in Starfleet and Starfleet going, who the hell are you? Who do you think you are? Instead of being, whoa, you're the hero we all know and love, which we had seen through all the other movies to that point. And it just moves at a breakneck pace. To the extent that it's not the best ever, it's not the strongest Star Trek story. It is a Star Trek story, but it's just not the strongest. I think what really saves it for me from being lower on the list is that last moment where Captain Kirk says to Nero, without your ship is doomed without assistance, which we are willing to provide. And Spock goes, wait, what? And and then Nero, before they can finish their debate, Nero says, I'd rather die a miserable death than accept help from you. And he says, okay, you got it. See ya. But the fact that Kirk is willing to turn the other cheek and offer a hand up to a fellow being with dignity and rights, that saves it as a Star Trek story for sure. Interesting
that moment be the one that saves it. Yeah, because I see what you're saying. I think the idea of not Spock reborn, but Spock from the past, Prime Spock, as they called it.
Yeah.
I guess I thought that was very Star Trek-y.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And nice to see Leonard Nimoy back, and I don't know, just the whole time travel and
it's a fun dualism where one of them is
dualism. Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
So that felt very Star Trek-y, but I mean, it's definitely a modern update, but it's very entertaining, I think, and
oh yeah, and the look of stuff is so cool. I daily get entertainment from the. Let's see if I can bring it up, if it'll show. But I daily enjoy, my Star Trek overlay on my phone.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's animated and everything, and it looks like it belongs on the Enterprise. Does it not?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I love the look of everything. Cool. I love the ship. I love the props. The sound effects are just awesome. They're new, but they have an old feeling about them. And all that tame, sanitized, next gen stuff is just out the window. It's
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have really tried to bring back the sense of daring do of the original series, and they pull it off so nicely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just great fun.
Yeah, and Karl Urban's so great. All the casting I think was excellent. It took me a while to warm up to Zachary Quino. He was the only one that I didn't really love in this movie, but he grows on me. So I'd still say he's good casting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like I said, just entertaining film. So, all right. So, what is your number 4?
Voyage Home.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, yeah,
why'd you put it at 4?
Well, it's just a lot of fun, and I think it's a great message. I love that Spock kind of is rebooting still. That's kind of a fun state to see him in. I also like a lot of the business with McCoy, where McCoy and Spock try to reconnect a little bit, and some of that business is really fun. And yeah, I can't think of a frame of the movie or a scene in the movie I don't like. It's just fun top to bottom for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think. I don't even remember McCoy and Spock being in that movie together that much. I guess I forgot that.
Okay, I can practically recite the scene for you. Okay, so Spock is monitoring Uhura's work. He's not really doing anything much. So McCoy sees an opportunity to sit down and sort of say, "Hey, come on, we kind of connected, right?" He's like, "Well, you've been places. We could talk about things: living, dying, living again." And Spock says, I don't think we could have a proper conversation without a common frame of reference. He says, are you kidding me? Are you telling me that I have to die to hear your views on death?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. Because I was thinking, McCoy, what is it, McCoy and Scotty that go after the glass?
Yeah.
The plastic?
Right.
And then it's Spock and
Spock and Kirk, yeah. They don't pair off, but they do have those scenes early on, and that's interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't know. I want to like it as much as everyone else, but...
Yeah, that's okay. It's all right.
I just thought it was too silly. But I think it will grow on me the more I
maybe if you experience some silly Star Trek episodes, you'll appreciate it more. Maybe you'll just take the silly Star Trek episodes, which is fine. You're allowed to hate those.
Maybe. So, yeah, I mean, everybody, I guess, has their taste. Okay, So my number 4 is actually Star Trek Beyond.
Oh, okay.
This was a hard one because I just felt like, how do I know that recency bias isn't kind of factoring in there? Right. It's like really hard. But what I loved the most about this movie, and I've seen it twice, is I loved the way that it divided the crew up into these little groups. That was my favorite thing, one of my favorite things ever in all the Star Trek movies. Because you just got to spend time with these characters that you don't normally get to spend time with. Especially, I loved Spock and Bones together. I loved Scotty and Jayla. I loved Jayla as a character. I thought she was great.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, because like female characters in sci-fi tend to be either the sort of the damsel in distress or the warrior woman, one or the other. And I felt like she was really better than that. Like she was fearful and vulnerable and strong, and I don't know, just a great character, I thought. And I liked pretty much, I don't know, I just found it so entertaining, so enjoyable. I mean, if I'm gonna fault it, is that the villain is pretty generic, and the scene with the music and the swarm is kind of silly. But I kind of liked it. I thought it was entertaining.
Yeah, I think you like it in spite of yourself.
Yeah.
You go, this is so cornball, this is so dumb, but you still get a chill up your spine, and you're still rocking your head to the music.
Yeah. It's like, they're like, I forget, was it Outcast or something like, I can't remember what the music was.
Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys. Saving the day. Saving all civilization. Who knew, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so that's why I have it at number 4. So.
Yeah, mine's close. I had that at 3.
Okay.
So we're very close on that one. Yeah, I felt like it was it's a solid movie. It hits all the beats nicely, and it's great Star Trek. I posted a link to the song the song from the soundtrack that I'm always thinking of when I think of this movie, that helps me think this is great Star Trek. That whole business of the Yorktown. I love how the Yorktown is not, one, it's not Earth. 2, it's full of aliens, and it's like the Federation embodied.
True.
And yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and the music that goes with it, it just sings with Star Trek's optimism, and that's what Kirk is fighting for, and you get a strong sense of that. I think it's great fun that the villain turns out to be human after all. I mean, that's such a powerful message as far as like this thing that's scary out there that we're most afraid of is right inside of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a cool thing.
Well, and you just felt like this was a group of friends, and that's what I really came away with more than almost any other Star Trek movie, I think. Maybe there's one more that's a little more, but I don't know, I just felt like these people love each other. These are friends.
Yeah,
and I really appreciated that emotion.
Absolutely, yeah. They definitely felt like they weren't doing Star Trek. They were Star Trek. Like they were starting to do it in their own way, where it was the references to the original series were fewer and far between.
Yeah.
And they were doing that thing that the original series did, but in their own way.
Mm-hmm. And also you get because again, these top ones for me are more, aside from Galaxy Quest, are more sort of ones I emotionally got invested in. And I think with Zachary Quinto as Spock, mourning Spock Prime and kind of like dealing with his own mortality, I thought that was really good too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So for me, my number 3 pick is Star Trek First Contact.
Okay.
And I thought this was very entertaining. I thought the Borgs are very, very good villain. I mean, good aliens. It's very interesting, the idea of being replicated. It's just like a zombie kind of movie in Star Trek, in a way. I think that when you see, it does also sort of break off into these little sort of groups, and you've got Data the queen, the Borg queen, and you have the rest of the crew down with the James Cromwell character. Can't think of his name. And then you have
Cochrane, yeah,
and then you have Picard with the
Lily.
woman. What's her name?
Lily.
Sorry, I can't remember names. And I just thought all those groupings worked really well. And I thought that there was a lot of tension, and you saw a lot of character growth in all of these characters. And I don't know, I really liked it.
Yeah. It's that one I have a bit higher than you. That's my number 2. So again, we're very close on this.
Yeah.
So it's like we're kind of leapfrogging each other up the list here a little bit now. It's. I found that the stuff with Data and the Borg Queen distracting. I've never liked that stuff less than I do now.
Interesting.
But the other stuff, the Cochrane stuff, is strong enough and interesting enough to me that I can't help but love it. So, this is one. It's alternately, depending on when you ask me. It's frequently my favorite of all of them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, it's well made. The special effects are really good. The sets are really good.
Yeah.
All the performances, I think, are really good. It's just.
And I'm inspired by the idea that we'll get there someday. That warp drive will exist. And I was so stirred by that. I've actually got a model of the Phoenix on my desk. Because I'm that stirred by it. I love that idea of I love the idea of a Star Trek ship that's sort of grungy and thrown together and haphazard, but it's still recognizably a Star Trek ship. It's cool. I just can't resist.
Well, and you get some real emotion from all of these, especially Lily and Picard. Their sort of emotion that they go through, and I don't know, just a lot of the. It's more than
Picard's
just a Dolby action movie. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Picard's arc, his development as a character. He's having to confront a demon that he's pushed down for, 3 seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation and a movie. He's been repressing these, dark feelings towards the Borg, and it's good that he finally clears the air about it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, did you have what was your number 3?
Beyond.
Oh, right.
So it's just above yours, and
right. Okay, so now we're at our final 2. This is exciting. So this was hard for me. I went back and forth with these 2 because my second one I think is the most entertaining, but the first one for me was the one that stuck with me and was the most emotional. So for me, the number 2 is Star Trek 6. What's it, Undiscovered Country?
Yep.
Yeah. So it was, because I think this is probably the best as far as if you just want to sit down and have an entertaining movie. I love the dinner scene when they're all, sitting there and, quoting Shakespeare, and that was so well done, I thought. I love Christopher Plummer as the villain. I love the trial, and when you get you get Kirk saying, they killed my son. And I can't forgive them for that. I'll never forgive them for that. That's emotional moment. And you see just this journey of him through the movie, of him being able to forgive and let go. And so that was really good. I thought it was well made. The sets are really good. And you get that lovely moment at the end where there's all the signatures, and you really felt like every single character kind of had their moment.
Yes.
Where they got to sort of matter to the story. Mm-hmm. And I was so pleasantly surprised, especially after having just seen 5, then to see 6.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference.
Yeah. So that for me was number 2. It was tough, but it's number 2.
That made my number 1 spot, The Undiscovered Country. So
yeah, I went back and forth. So what do you have as number 2?
First Contact.
Okay.
Right. So, what's your number one?
My number one is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And I know that may seem like a cliched answer because it's like everyone's favorite. But the more I thought about it, that was the one that I could remember character names. That's the one that I could remember scenes. That's the one that just stuck with me the most. I think it is the most memorable for me, and I think that it has that emotion because of the guts of what they do with Spock at the end.
Yeah.
That to me makes it the best because
here's an interesting question. I have a question for you because okay, so Kirk died and it sucked. Data died and it sucked. Spock died and it was awesome. What made it so gutsy when they killed Spock? Now, I'm not saying that it wasn't. I'm not saying it with how cool that is. It is pretty good. But
so for me, with Kirk, that's an interesting one. But he was in the movie so little, and I wasn't as invested in his character.
Now we're talking about Generations, right?
Generations.
Because I'm remembering now too. He dies in Into Darkness as well, but he gets better, like in 5 minutes.
So they wimped out. And with it's the same thing within Nemesis. They have a backup Data, so it's not you feel manipulated.
Okay. So it's cheap. I see what you're saying.
And here you have Kirk looking at his friend dying and sacrificing for everybody, and the will of the will of the
needs of the many.
Needs of the many. Yeah. And I just think there are so few. I've told you about that podcast I listened to with Alonso Duralde, where he talked about how since the 70s, nobody has the guts to end on a sad note in a movie.
Right.
You have to. Even like I saw Kubo and the Two Strings. It's an excellent movie, but even that they kind of have to make it like not as sad.
Well, The Empire Strikes Back was technically in the 80s, and that had a sad ending, but
yeah, that's fair. And I know I just feel like that was so bold, and you just never see that anymore, hardly at all. That a movie, unless it's like an extreme indie, that then maybe they'll have the guts to sort of end on a really bittersweet note. Like, here's an example. The movie, it's a rom-com, so it seems like a weird example, but 500 Days of Summer, one of the things I loved about that movie is that they ended with the couple not being together. That was so, spoiler alert, that was so bold. And so that's so rare. That's so rare. And so I just appreciated the emotion of that scene, the acting in that scene. You even see what Spock has to do with Bones in that scene. The commitment that he has. I think it's really well made in every other way. I think that Khan is really fun. He's definitely, in my opinion, the best villain that Star Trek ever had. And you can make an argument that you don't need villains in Star Trek, and I get that, but we have him in a lot of them, and he's the best, in my opinion.
Right.
And you just see this battle of wills between the two of them. That's really fun, and it just got the edge to me because I think that if you I compared it to the ending of Batman v Superman, which again, they don't have the guts. They don't have the guts, and there's just so few movies that are as brave as Wrath of Khan is, I think. And so that's why, for me, it got the emotion, it got the acting, it got the look, it got the, like the crazy scenes, like when the bug gets in when Chekhov's ear, like that's crazy. And, there's, I don't know. So that's why, for me, I just kept thinking about it, and it was the one we watched 14 movies, and it was the one that just was the most memorable.
Okay, yeah. Well, I can totally understand that. I will say that the one thing where I go, maybe I wasn't so fair to put it at number 10 out of 14, is the aspect of Spock, the juxtaposition of Spock's two statements. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I am now and forever shall be your friend, right? So he's a Vulcan and a human, and you get in those two lines the contrast of those things, and he's he gets it now. Like, he gets who he is now, and he's done. He's done being himself, and that's the moment he can die. That's the most Star Trek-y thing I can say about the plot and the story of the episode. And so that's the one thing where it tugs me a little bit in terms of like, maybe it ought to be a little higher, but I wouldn't put it at number one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, no problem. I totally get it. So you're number one. Let's talk about it.
Undiscovered Country, yeah. So
yeah.
The reason it's my number one is, it's a great send off for the original cast. General Chang is a amazing villain. Like, Christopher Plummer's just great in it. I love, and not just his acting or his lines or the way his costume is unbelievably cool. There still has not been a better villain costume in any of the other movies than that one. It just takes the cake. The huge, the cane that looks like it's the tooth from a hideous, gigantic monster, right? And the bone and metal all over the place, and the leather. It's just so tactile and cool. I feel like the Enterprise itself, the way that it's designed and the way the look and feel of it, it feels real. It feels like this is a place where people really work and do a job, and you can't say that about all of them. It has that sense of like being lived in and real. Spock has some cool moments. I love I don't know if I addressed this before, but there's a line where he quotes Sherlock Holmes, where he says, when the improbable has been eliminated, whatever remains, when all other, I don't know how it goes, but it's a quote from Sherlock Holmes, right? That whatever remains must be the truth, that quote.
Yeah.
He says, as an ancestor of mine once said. And so that means either he's a descendant of Sherlock Holmes, or he's a descendant of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And either way, that's awesome.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, because he's half human, right? So
yeah.
It's entirely possible. It would work. It could work, right? So I think that's cool. Spock in it is just so fun. I love him solving a mystery and eliminating possibilities. I love Kirk, having to confront himself, and yes, at one point literally, and that's sort of eye roll worthy. But I forget about that. Yeah. Yeah, but he really does confront himself in terms of he took a long look in the mirror and says, maybe I'm too old for this. Maybe, he kind of questions, am I too old for this? I mean, can I change? Maybe I can. Maybe it isn't such a big leap. And Chancellor Gorkon is cool. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but he's fun. I believe him as the leader of the Klingon people, and you like Klingons more because you know him. Right. So, but that works really well. The battle cruiser is so cool. I've always loved that design. I love when the ship comes around and the weapons are arming and they kind of flare like a coal in the bottom of a campfire, right? Kind of threateningly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Now you got
it's really good. Like I said, I don't know. What do you think of that dinner scene? I think that's so fun.
There's some stuff about it that makes you uncomfortable because the way they do blanch a little too much at the Klingons. Like there's some fair criticisms you can make of the movie. It troubles me that Spock sort of kind of mind rapes Valeris. That's a little troubling.
Oh, I forgot about that too.
Yeah, there's like it's not perfect, but it's a fun enough movie and fun enough Star Trek that it easily takes number one for me.
Yeah, and like I said, I love that courtroom scene. I think that is great.
Oh,
I mean, Christopher Plummer, hello, and just William Shatner's great in that scene.
Yeah, and let's not forget Michael Dorn as Colonel Worf's grandfather.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it's definitely I would think I never hear it talked about as one of the great Star Trek movies. I feel like it's way underrated.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's my number 2. So let's go over our list real quick, and just kind of talk about the experience that we've had, and before we go. So for me, my list, 14, I have Star Trek: The Final Frontier. 13, I have Star Trek Nemesis. 12, I have Star Trek: The Motion Picture. 11, Star Trek Insurrection. Number 10, I have Star Trek Generations. Number 9, Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. 8, I have Star Trek Into Darkness. 7, Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. 6, Galaxy Quest. 5, Star Trek. 4, Star Trek Beyond. 3, Star Trek First Contact. 2, Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. And number 1, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. I feel like I'm such a cliche for picking that one, but it's what I felt was the right one. So
yeah, it's what you really want.
Yeah.
And I promise I didn't set Wrath of Khan. Conversely, I feel like I could be accused of just being a jerk for setting Wrath of Khan so low.
No, you're not just trolling or something.
Yeah, anyway, okay. My list, number 14, Nemesis. 13, Final Frontier. 12, Generations. 11, Insurrection. 10, Wrath of Khan. 9, Into Darkness. 8, Search for Spock. 7, The Motion Picture. 6, Galaxy Quest. 5, 2009, Star Trek. 4, Voyage Home. 3, Beyond. 2, First Contact. And 1, Undiscovered Country.
Sweet. Awesome. And like I said, for me, really, like 10 through 14 are weak, are the not as good ones. I would say 6 through 9 are solid, okay, ones. And then for me, 1 through 5 are really all great. So
yeah, I feel like for Star Trek, it's like pizza or sex. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. It's still worth showing up for.
I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the only one of mine on my list that it could disappear and I wouldn't miss it for a second is Nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
But any of the others, if you took it away, it's like killing one of your children.
Even 5 for you, huh?
Yeah, because there's it has a sort of a soft spot for me in some ways. Yeah, so.
Oh, cool. I think it's been a really good experience for me because, you just get, I don't know, it's just a fun, cool thing to like dive into a new genre and try something new, get out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's been a good experience for me, and it's been cool for me to see how many. I think I had an idea of what Star Trek was, maybe from having seen 2009, or I don't know. You have stereotypes or whatever of Trekkies.
In the furniture of the pop culture, right? It's just sort of there.
Or maybe even from Galaxy Quest a little bit.
Yeah.
But to see it take on so many different colors.
Yeah.
And you have everything from your high octane action movie and Beyond to a silly campy kind of movie in Voyage Home, to horror elements in Wrath of Khan. You have 2001 Space Odyssey kind of elements in the motion picture. You just have a lot in there, and I can totally see. When I was watching these movies, I kept thinking, my dad should love this, because it's something I want to like sit down with my dad and start watching Star Trek with him, because he did say he liked it when it first aired. The show, but he's never really watched any of the movies, and because it's fun, it's thoughtful, it's well acted for the most part, and you're always surprised, I think, a little bit by what you're gonna get. You never quite know.
Yeah, there's a Vulcan proverb that's cited in the show a lot, and it's the initialism is IDIC, IDIC, and that stands for infinite diversity and infinite combinations. As you're talking about the many colors of Star Trek, that's what you've got here. You've got, and that's what's fun about it. And I think that's why it's going to have some real longevity as a franchise.
Yeah, 50 years already.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And specifically as a movie franchise, I think it'll continue to work and continue to find an audience. It's we already know there's another one coming with the current cast that we've seen in the movies lately. Like I said before, I'm not going to be surprised if they recast the next generation crew and send them on some new adventures. Eventually. Yeah, because they're just too memorable. They're too interesting to be left alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what have you learned? Through this process of watching them fairly close together.
Yeah, that's true. I've never watched them all this close together, so that was kind of new. I think I could see some of the things that they have in common. I have a stronger idea in my mind of what Star Trek is, at least for me. And
I know at one point you had said that you had grown weary of Star Trek as movies.
Yeah.
So we're ready. Do you feel like this is kind of primed you to be ready for Discovery?
Yes, absolutely. I'm really eager for it to be a show again. And because I think it really does live there. We're not really talking about the show, but it really does. It really does live there, and it really does belong there. But we, as it is, though, we live in a culture where if something counts culturally, if there's a movie of it, whether it really fits that way or not, it has to be a movie, or it doesn't count.
I think that's becoming less so, though. I do. When you have shows like, I don't watch these shows, but when you have shows like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones and shows like that are so iconic as shows, I think it's becoming less the case. Don't you think?
Well, maybe, but you can bet your bottom dollar that there have at least been talks about turning those into movies. And we may have to wait for the nostalgia factor when they're long gone and for people to want it back. But
no, you could be right. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. That's interesting. Yeah.
But, Star Trek was a TV show too that was never ever going to be a movie. People would have laughed their heads off at the idea of a Star Trek movie in 1972.
Right.
So you never know.
I mean, I think that what's nice about the movies is that you can get a little bit of all those different layers of Star Trek in, what we have altogether 28 hours as opposed to years, it's a lot, and a lot of these, let's be honest, you could probably skip if you were just starting for the first time. You could watch the top 5 of ours and have like a pretty, I think, good idea of what Star Trek is.
Yep.
And it's kind of like with this new show Stranger Things. Everyone is like, you gotta watch it. And I'm like, I know, but it's hard for me to find all this time to watch a whole series. And I just love that about movies compared to TV, because in a movie you get a whole story in 2 hours.
That's true.
So that's my favorite thing about it, compared to like a book, which is you're going to take many, many, many days to be in that world and to live in it. A series where it's going to be years that you'll live in it. Yeah. But a movie, it's just this concise storytelling that I love. So
yeah,
it's been a really fun experience, and I really appreciate it. But speaking of TV, I mean, we've talked about it. We are going to do some kind of podcasting about Discovery, so that's going to be really fun.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Now, unfortunately, we have to wait another 5 months.
Oh, I thought it was January.
Yeah, it was. I guess. And they've had to. CBS has moved back the schedule. So I hope that means that there's better Star Trek in store for us than otherwise. I hope it means that a better quality product and not just show business BS. But yeah, we're gonna have to wait till May. But
well, hopefully, maybe we can find something else to talk about. But thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
It's been so fun. Yeah,
I've had a blast getting to know you and talking about getting to know Star Trek through you. So I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure and an honor.
And how can people reach you? How can people find you?
My website is tgunwriter.com. My Twitter feed is @elmano
Awesome. All right, great. Well, should we say live long and prosper?
Live long and prosper. It's a long life.